Once upon a time, in a quiet town where life was simple but not always easy, there lived a young orphan girl who had known more struggles than most people could imagine. She had no family to lean on, no parents to guide her, and no siblings to share her pain. She worked tirelessly at a small diner, barely earning enough to cover her rent in a modest room and her daily meals. Her clothes were worn out, her shoes had holes, and yet her spirit remained unbroken. She believed that somewhere out there, life still held something better for her. Even if she didn't know when or how it would come, her life took an unexpected turn one evening. A friend from the diner convinced her to go on a casual blind date. She hesitated because she didn't feel ready, nor did she have the money to enjoy such things, but her friend pushed her, saying that sometimes life surprises us in the most ordinary moments. With only $2 in her pocket, she walked nervously toward a small café where the meeting was arranged. She promised herself that no matter how embarrassing it felt, she would be honest about her situation. When she arrived, she didn't expect to see a man who carried himself with such calm confidence. He wasn't just handsome, but there was kindness in his eyes. What she didn't know at first was that he was a wealthy, single father, a man who had built a successful business empire but had lost his wife years earlier. His wealth gave him comfort, but his heart often felt lonely. He wanted someone genuine, someone who wouldn't care about his money, but about who he was inside. That's why he agreed to this blind date, hoping it would lead to something real. The orphan girl sat down nervously, clutching her small purse that only had 2 crumpled dollar bills inside. She smiled awkwardly, unsure of how to carry herself. The man noticed her discomfort and tried to lighten the mood with gentle conversation. Slowly, she began to open up. They talked about little things, first the weather, books, and music, but eventually she revealed her story. She told him about losing her parents at a young age, about growing up without love, about struggling to survive each day. The man listened carefully, and instead of pity, he felt admiration for her resilience. He was touched by her honesty. Unlike many people he had met, she didn't try to impress him with fancy words or charm. She was simply herself, humble, strong, and full of quiet hope. Then came the moment of truth, when the waiter arrived to take their order. She shyly admitted that she could only afford something small, maybe just a cup of tea. She showed her $2 with embarrassment, expecting him to judge her. But instead, he smiled warmly and told her not to worry. He ordered dinner for both of them, not in a showy way, but as if it was the most natural thing to do. That evening became unforgettable. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen, heard, and valued. The man didn't treat her like a poor girl or an outsider. He treated her like a woman worthy of respect. They talked for hours, laughing and sharing stories, until the cafe closed. Before leaving, he gently told her that he admired her courage and would like to see her again. She went home that night with her heart racing, not because of his wealth, but because she felt hope blossoming inside her eyes. Days turned into weeks, and their bond grew stronger. He introduced her slowly into his life, always careful not to overwhelm her. She met his little daughter, a bright-eyed child who had been longing for a mother's love. At first, the orphan girl worried what if the child didn't like her. But to her surprise, the girl warmed up to her almost instantly. They shared laughter, bedtime stories, and little secrets that only children can create. The wealthy father watched with amazement as his daughter smiled more and more, as if the missing piece of their family had finally arrived. Still, the orphan girl struggled with doubt. She often wondered if she truly belonged in his world. She had nothing to offer compared to his wealth. She wore simple clothes, while the women around him dressed in luxury. She had no social standing, no influential family name, no glamorous past. But he reassured her time and time again that what mattered was her heart, not her possessions. He reminded her that love was about honesty, loyalty, and kindness, things she carried in abundance. Their relationship faced challenges, of course. Some people in his business circle looked down on her, whispering that she was only with him for his money. But he never let those voices come between them. He stood by her side, defending her dignity and reminding everyone that she had given him something money could never buy. True love. One evening, as they sat together in the garden of his beautiful home, he turned to her with a serious look in his eyes. He told her how much she had changed his life and his daughter's life. He said that before meeting her, his house had been filled with silence, but now it echoed with laughter. Then he took her hand and asked her the question that would change everything. Would she accept not just him, but his daughter as well, and become a part of their family? Tears filled her eyes as she thought about the journey that had brought her here. From having nothing, not even parents to call her own, to now being offered a home, a family, and love beyond measure. She nodded with trembling hands and whispered, "Yes." The man embraced her tightly, and his daughter ran to join them, hugging her with pure joy. That night, they weren't just three people. They became a family. The orphan girl who once walked to a café with only $2 in her purse had found something priceless, a place to belong, a father figure for herself, a daughter to love, and a man who saw her worth when no one else did. Her story spread quietly, inspiring those who heard it. It reminded people that love is not about wealth or appearances, but about compassion, sincerity, and the courage to open one's heart. It proved that sometimes life gives us the most beautiful gifts when we least expect them, even in the smallest moments, like a simple date over tea. The orphan girl never forgot where she came from, and she never took her new life for granted. She dedicated herself to being the best partner and mother she could be, filling their home with warmth, kindness, and joy. And every time she looked back on that night with just $2, she smiled, knowing it was the beginning of the life she had always dreamed of but never thought possible. In the end, the story of the orphan girl and the rich single father was not about money at all. It was about two lonely hearts finding each other, about a child gaining the love she had been missing, and about the power of honesty and humility in a world often blinded by material things. It was a story of hope, reminding us all that love doesn't care about the size of your wallet, only the size of your heart. And so, their lives moved forward, not in Lu-O-Su, RY alone, but in love that money could never buy.